Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that right now. Hit that subscribe button right below. All right, we're excited to have Dane Brugler back on the show from The Athletic. Dane just dropped his top 50 NFL draft prospects for the 2026 NFL draft. Dane, welcome back, man.
Anytime, always fun. Talk prospects, talk players. We got a month left in the college football season, so we're running out of time to get new tape, and that's it. This is so I only do one top 50 update to this point. Like I did one in August, and then I want to get at least 2 months of tape before I make an update, and feel like we have that. Feel like this is a checkpoint of the year where we can kind of feel good about where we think these players are going to go. Still have some dominoes to fall, underclassmen that need to come out. This is a very underclassmen draft. In my top 30, I think there was only 3 seniors. So, who comes out, who goes back to school, that's a big part of this. But with where we are right now, feel good about this top 50.
And some significant games coming up with the extra playoff games and, of course, the quarterbacks and, seeing a few more challenges for some of the top QBs. It's going to be a great finish to the college football season. Let's start with the quarterback discussion, as we always do with the NFL draft. It felt like it could be a deep NFL draft class for the quarterbacks, but there's different names at the top now, I think, than what we may have expected in August. How have you seen that all shake out during the season here?
We had a lot of optimism for this quarterback class coming in, but the guys that we had optimism for, a lot of those guys fell off. Obviously Arch Manning, Garrett Nussmeier, Lenora Sellers, Drew Allard to a lesser extent, but it's just the quarterbacks that have ascended. Maybe we didn't expect to see, like Ty Simpson from Alabama, who the elephant in the room is going to be the lack of starts. This is his first year as a starter for Alabama, so he's gonna, if he comes out after this year, which some scouts believe he will, which it's. Could he be helped by another year of eligibility? Sure, but he's going to be a 23-year-old here in a month. He already graduated. He graduated with his degree before he threw his first touchdown pass. Like, just a really unique situation. And when you watch him on film, you don't necessarily see a one-year starter. You see a guy who is doing a lot of advanced things that you don't expect from someone that has 9 starts under his belt. So it's interesting because when you look at just the last 10 years, the quarterbacks that have gone to the NFL with fewer than 25 starts, it does not look good. It has not been a good track record for those guys. The best of those quarterbacks has been Sam Darnold, and it took him until his 15 to really, he needed those ups and downs in the NFL to get to this point in his career. And so there's a lot more Mitchell Trubisky's, Anthony Richardson, Dwayne Haskins, all those guys that they're one-year starters and then just weren't ready for NFL life. So Ty Simpson, is he going to be the exception to that rule? Or, is he, because he is a unique player who was in the program for 3 years, sat behind Bryce Young, and then 2 years behind Jalen Milroe. And you watch him against SEC competition, and he looks like a 3-year starter out there. He looks like a veteran. I think it helps that he grew up in a Division I program. His dad, 20-year head coach at FCS Tennessee Martin. So he grew up in a locker room, on a practice field, in a quarterback room, learning a lot of these things. And so he has really unique experience. But I just keep coming back to the tape and what that tells us and how he's playing in rhythm. He just has a really good feel for how to eliminate things in his reads, find the open receiver. He has a good feel for where the vulnerable matchup is going to be. And, the accuracy has been more good than amazing, but certainly good enough where he's giving his receivers a chance to catch, run, make plays. So it's been a lot of fun. And he's taking care of the football, too, without being overly conservative. He has a grand total of 2 turnovers this year, 1 interception, 1 lost fumble. So, it feels like we're waiting for that 3 turnover game to come. It just hasn't come yet. So Ty Simpson has certainly been one of the nice surprises here. And then Fernando Mendoza, he was a top 20 guy coming into this year. So it's not like he came from out of nowhere, more like a Ty Simpson. But Mendoza, to have 1 year in this scheme at Indiana, to build off of what he did at Cal, has been really fun to watch. And, he's another guy, post snap, really smart, outstanding versus the blitz. Teams will try to heat him up, but he is so smart with understanding where to go with the football that it hasn't affected him. And we saw on this past Saturday against Penn State where he did struggle at times in the first 3 quarters, but that final drive was one for the ages that gave them the victory late. So both these quarterbacks that he can point to and say, okay, these are NFL starters. Now the trick is for NFL teams to figure out, okay, low-end starters, mid-range starters, can they be high-level starters? I think that's where there's not going to be a real consensus from team to team.
The talking about Mendoza, I feel like every quarterback will have their signature plays that we'll, in our little world see on, social media and everything. Like, watch these couple plays. Mendoza's signature feels like throwing through contact, right? He's getting popped, and seam route against Iowa, the game winner against Penn State last week where Omar Cooper Jr. makes the great catch. It feels like Mendoza making those plays under pressure. And then Ty Simpson's are interesting because they're wow plays in the sense of like, this is really good high-level NFL quarterbacking, but not necessarily like a Mahomesian or Josh Allen spectacular play. It's just, look at this pocket movement and then hitting an over route, layering it over a linebacker. So some NFL things, I think, from both of those top 2 quarterbacks that you mentioned.
No doubt. And even some of the incompletions, like, watching Ty Simpson over the weekend, watching the tape from LSU, there was a play on 3rd down where they get immediate pressure with the blitz and he has to spin out of it. And he goes to the sideline, makes a throw down the field. It's incomplete, but it's just amazing that he got out of that and was able to make it an incomplete pass and he was still able to kick the field goal. So it's like little plays like that with his mobility that I think Ty Simpson helps separate him. With Mendoza, yeah, I mean, he has so many plays that you can point to and say, okay, toughness, not an issue. Poise, not an issue. And I love the short memory that he has. I mean, you go into Oregon tape where he throws that pick 6 in Eugene, tough place to play, throws a back-breaking interception that they take back for a touchdown. He comes back on the very next drive and leads them all the way down the field and leans on Elijah Surratt, who ends up scoring the touchdown too. So, and then again, yeah, like the Penn State, that final drive where you got to have it. He had a bad interception in the second half in that game, able to come back and just kind of, it's like Will Ferrell, like, oh, I just blacked out for a second there. Like, he just kind of go crazy. And it's fun to watch because, again, like you said, it's high-level quarterback play. Now, when you project that to the next level, like, neither of these guys are really stand out physically. Like, like their arms are good, not great. They're both kind of mobile, but not, they're not like Lamar Jackson or anything like that. They're not, I wouldn't even say they're Cam Ward in terms of their ability to extend plays, but they do just enough. And I think that's something that helps them play the quarterback position at a high level. And and I would also mention Dante Moore as well, who is another one who kind of came on this year where we weren't sure what to expect. We saw him at UCLA as a freshman, didn't look so hot, had a backup year behind Dylan Gabriel at Oregon, and then becomes a starter this year. And he's doing a lot of high-level stuff. And you can tell he's still just 20 years old. Hopefully would like to see him go back. I'm sure Oregon won't have a problem cutting a check to make sure that happens. But it's a case of a guy that you can see the seeds of a really good quarterback that, we'll be talking about, if not in 2026, definitely in 2027.
Yeah, that was my question about Dante Moore. Different situation from Ty Simpson, but similar level of inexperience. Yeah, Moore has the whole true freshman season, as you mentioned, at UCLA, but it wasn't great. Was a top recruit, was expected to be a first-round pick, if all went well. But could you see Moore and Simpson, like Moore is more likely to go back, right, to Oregon, but Simpson potentially going back to Alabama with the NIL landscape? There's at least some money to be had there. There's, so you're not risking as much as you would have, say, 5 or 10 years ago. And because the NFL cares about experience, does that affect a decision from a Ty Simpson or a Dante Moore that the NFL cares, right? They still might go in the top 10. They're like, here's how I'm going to position it, Dane. I feel like players can make a better decision for their development, right? A smart player can say, I can think longer term now than I could have, say, a decade ago where there was no money in college. Now I can at least get something to stay and think about my longer term development, do it in college rather than in the NFL. So do you think there's a world where maybe Ty Simpson and Dante Moore both end up staying back in school?
Sure, because like you set up, starts absolutely matter. Teams care about experience. I mean, we just broke it down how the lack of starts is not worked out for a lot of these players. There's just no substitute for experience. Now, a lot of what Ty Simpson is doing on film is stuff that you would expect from a multi-year starter. He's doing advanced stuff in terms of protections, in terms of reading out the field and the timing that it takes to turn this down because he knows the backside's coming open, like all these different things. But it is a fine line where I think you can't paint a broad brush and say, you need at least 30 starts or you need this. Like every quarterback is very different. And again, their ages are very different. Moore's 20 years old. Ty Simpson's about to turn 23. Like very, very different situations. And, I think there's something to be said about being a backup the last 3 years and practicing every day against Alabama competition. Like there's something to that. And Dante Moore, I've been really impressed with how much the Oregon coaches have put on his plate and how much he's been able to, the Penn State game, especially if Dante Moore doesn't play like an above average quarterback in that game, they don't win. So it's been really impressive to watch his development. And then the NIL factor is certainly something that plays a part in all this, right? I mean, it was always something, quarterbacks going back, but NIL with it being a much more legal thing. But I think there's two sides of the coin because you could look at Garrett Nussmeier, for example. If he comes out after last year, a 1-year starter, he would have been either probably the second or third quarterback drafted. And, we'd be talking about him as maybe starting in the NFL right now. He goes back. They lose a lot on the offensive line. Head coach is fired midseason, offensive coordinator fired midseason, and it's a disaster. Some of that's on Nussmeier. Some of that is on just everything else going on around him, the lack of protection, the run game is non-existent, the coaching's bad. So, if Ty Simpson does come back for another year, okay, maybe he loses 3 guys on the offensive line and you lose his favorite target, Jeremy Bernard. And so there's so many factors that go into this that I would, if I had to guess right now, based on how scouts feel and their best guesses, I would think Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson come out, Dante Moore goes back. But these things change all the time. I remember scouts being adamant that Sam Darnold was going to go back to school because he loved USC and he wanted to win a national title, and that didn't happen. He came out after his redshirt sophomore year. So, it might depend on how Alabama finishes this year. They're kind of poised. They're set up to compete for the SEC title game, go to the playoffs. If Alabama maybe doesn't have the finish they want, that could possibly influence what Ty Simpson ends up doing. So I think it's still too early to say. But if I had to guess right now, I would say Mendoza, Simpson come out. The other guys go back.
The top 3 guys there, Simpson, Mendoza, Moore, get to see tons of great football from them. Playoff push, conference championships potential. I mean, there's a lot of huge games for those guys. LaNorris Sellers from South Carolina, he's the other quarterback in your top 50. Different kind of season for him. South Carolina's not winning a whole lot, but he was the guy that was pegged as, hey, he can go top 10 with some development as a passer. Unbelievable size and running ability. What have you seen from Sellers where the question's going to be draft, South Carolina, or potentially a transfer? He could be the hottest name in the transfer market if that's what he decides to do.
I mean, in terms of a dual threat quarterback, he's as good as it gets because he's so strong. One of the strongest quarterbacks I've ever evaluated, and he has legit 4.4 speed. And I don't care what game you pick, you can find a handful of plays as a passer that make you sit up in your seat and say, okay, can he do this more consistently? Because this will play at the next level. This is something that is really, really unique. And so he's done enough this year to keep scouts and teams interested, but he's also not getting a lot of help behind a really bad offensive line, and the supporting cast just hasn't elevated him enough. I mean, and I think we expect these quarterbacks to be superheroes where it's like they can prop up any situation. And the reality is it's a dependent position. You have to have a supporting cast to help complement your skills. And right now, South Carolina just hasn't had that. So it'll be interesting because he's a South Carolina kid. His younger brother's on the team. So it's not as simple as saying just jump in the portal, try to find a better situation. And and he's still young. He's still 20 years old as well. So I would really like to see him go back to school, get better. But if he does come out, it's not like nobody's going to be interested. Teams are still going to be interested in Lenore Sellers if he did come out, but his projection would be a lot more volatile and tough to figure out based on how the season has gone.
I hate doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. The look ahead to the 2027 NFL draft.
Yeah.
I know we always get into this. Next year's class. But realistically, the 27 class, in non-quarterback world, there are some elite players. In the quarterback world, if a guy like Sellers goes back and Dante Moore goes back and they develop, right? So there's some ifs. And we expected 27 to be good even before the season. That was assuming Arch Manning or DJ Lagway progressed normally. But either way, feels like we could be looking at a special top of the 2027 NFL draft, which makes the Jets strategy of loading up on draft picks, particularly in 27, really interesting. How do you feel about the 27 draft, and is that the right way to look at this? Hey, the Jets are really setting themselves up for potentially an elite top of the draft there.
There's no question that in terms of high-end talent, like top 10 type of talent, 27 looks far more impressive than what we have this year. Now, I think this is a good draft, talking about 2026, but it's more for the depth and especially at certain positions where 2027 definitely has more star power, higher ranked players, higher graded players. Jeremiah Smith, obviously, from Ohio State, Cam Coleman from Auburn. Those two receivers are better than anything we have this year. Dylan Stewart at South Carolina, Colin Simmons at Texas, a couple pass rushers that look legit. Leonard Moore, the corner at Notre Dame, looks amazing. And then, the quarterbacks. I mean, Julian Sayin is, he's going to fight the whole, look who he's throwing to. And I get that. But
point, man.
Watch the placement. Yeah. He has an off-target rate of 6%. That's not even that leads the nation easily. So the ball placement and the rhythm of how he's playing, and by the way, he's a redshirt freshman who is still figuring things out. It's amazing to watch him read out the field and then put the ball exactly where it needs to be. So Julian Sayin in that mix, like you said, Arch Manning, it became pretty evident this year that he wasn't a 2026 prospect. He's going to be a 2027 prospect. And there's, CJ Bailey at NC State's really exciting. CJ Carr at Notre Dame, what he's been doing. So there's a lot of young talent that could be part of that 2027 class. That's and the guys that don't come out this year, Dante Moore, potentially Lenore Sellers. So I think it's cliche to say, oh, just wait till next year, because we said this last year about this year's quarterback class. But I think it was still true, just because last year's class wasn't good at all. Where next year's class, it definitely looks a little more promising.
Coming back to this year's class, your top 50 dropping at the Athletic, high level beyond the quarterback position, how would you classify this draft, some of the strengths, weaknesses, and what we've seen, a little more than halfway through the season as far as college goes?
I really struggled with the top 7, feeling really good. And that's not uncommon. Some years are stronger than others. Some years you've got Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase and Micah Parsons and Patrick Surtain and all these guys in the same draft. And it's okay, it's makes it a little bit easier in the top 7. Or, a couple of years ago we had Joe Alt and Marvin Harrison Jr. and Blake Neighbors and Brock Bowers. This year is not one of those years where I did struggle in the top 7, just feeling great about who goes that high, because someone has to go that high. I don't feel great about Keldrick Falk being my number 4 prospect, but somebody has to go there. Jeremiah Love, running back from Notre Dame, love him as a player and a prospect. Do I feel great about him as number 5? Not necessarily, but I'm stacking these guys, and it's okay, he's the 5th best player right now for me, because he's so explosive and he's going to upgrade an offense immediately, even though I don't quite think he's on that Bijan Robinson level as a running back prospect. So I do. The top of the draft gives me a little bit of pause, but like I said, I do like the depth, certainly at certain positions as well. Offensive tackle looked really promising coming in, and that just hasn't played out. But on the flip side, wide receiver, we had some questions before the season. Now wide receiver looks like, okay, I feel a lot more excited about this group now compared to 2 months ago. And that's with the way Carnell Tate has played at Ohio State. Chris Bell from Louisville has lived up to kind of what we thought he could be as being the number one in that offense. But Kai Lemon from USC has been awesome. Casey Concepcion at A&M has been a big part why they're undefeated in the SEC. And Boston at Washington, he looks like a true X, which, it's hard to find those guys. So the wide receivers are really strong. Linebacker is a fun class, starting with Arvel Reese, my number one overall player in this draft. Whether you want to call him a linebacker, call him an edge rusher, he can do a little bit of everything. So he's a ton of fun. It's just my favorite thing to do every Sunday morning. As soon as the tape's up, I'm watching that Ohio State defense so I can watch Caleb Downs, watch Arvel Reese, Caden McDonald, Sonny Styles. It's just a loaded group, and all those guys are in this top 50.
Let's talk Arvel Reese, number one on your board, as you said. Go check it out over at The Athletic. You were one of the first people I saw raving about Arvel Reese. I don't know where you thought about him coming into the season, but what have you seen from him, first of all? And then secondly, he's a linebacker in name who's dabbled on the edge. What is his role at the next level? We're going to be talking about this one for months leading up to the draft.
It'll be similar to kind of how we talked about Jalen Walker coming out of Georgia last year, where it's, okay, they play him off the ball, but his best snaps were getting after the quarterback. And the way that Atlanta's used him now as a rookie, he's doing a lot of stuff getting after the quarterback, and it looks really good. With Arvel Reese, his best stuff is when you want him dipping and ripping around the edge, getting to the quarterback. His burst off the ball, the violence in his hands, how flexible and long he is as an athlete, it's just really impressive. Now, does he have a deep arsenal of moves? Not necessarily yet. And part of that is he hasn't been asked to do that. But if you want to play him off the ball, he's outstanding. Taking on blocks, so much violence in his hands. The range is outstanding. He makes a ton of plays outside the numbers. So I think it's whatever you want him to be, he can be. And I think it'll differ from team to team. But yeah, Arvel Reese, you saw it right away from the Texas game in the season opener. He was making a huge difference. And I think he started 2 games last year because of injury. So we knew about him coming in. In my August top 50 before the season, I included his name in there, not in the top 50, but because in the Sonny Styles write-up, I had a scout say, I think you're right about Sonny Styles where you have him, but just wait till Arvel Reese this year. He's going to be a breakout player, and that scout was absolutely right. He is ascended up the board in a way that I don't think anybody saw coming this year. He is a phenomenal athlete, and he plays with the type of violence and play strength that's going to allow him to be an edge rusher, be a linebacker, and just overall an impact player.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion because I see everything that you're saying. The violence is incredible, especially in short areas, just making tackles look silly when he does play on the edge. But the lack of experience when you're talking about a potential top 5 pick and how teams are going to value that. I thought last year seeing a guy like Abdul Carter already make the move from linebacker to the edge and at least get a full season of edge snaps at Penn State, do the development in college rather than the NFL. I think that's going to be one of the questions. Can Arvel Reese develop in the NFL if you're going to make him a full-time edge? And if you're not going to, is that worth the top 5 pick just because he's versatile? Because then you get back into this Dion Jordan at number 3. It's cool that he's 6'7" and versatile 10 years ago, but does he have enough special? I think Reese has all the special traits, but you haven't seen him do it on the edge. So I think that'll be a fascinating discussion when you talk about a top 5 or top 10 pick come April.
Oh, play Dion in the nickel. And that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
It was cool for 6'7", right, Dane? It was here's a 6'7" guy out in space making tackles, but it doesn't really matter how tall you are. You didn't rush the passer enough. It was cool for a 6'7" guy. He was holding it down for the tall guys. Right,
yeah. But I think you can, with Reese, though, I think there's at least enough there that you feel good about the projection. I definitely risky when we're talking about a top 3, top 5 pick. But it's interesting that, in my top 5, I've got a linebacker, a safety, and a running back. 3 positions that the NFL has told us over and over again, we don't really value those positions highly in the draft. So, this top 50 is not exactly hey, I think this is where these guys are going to go. I do this top 50, so when I look back at this in 3 years, I can feel okay with where I stack the best players and the best prospects. And so I don't think that Caleb Downs at number 3, I don't think he's going to go that high, but I feel good about him being one of the best football players in this draft. And it'll be interesting because I don't think we can even call Caleb Downs a top 10 lock, but the way he impacts the game and how important he is to the overall structure of that Ohio State defense, it's just, there's no denying how talented he is. And it'll be really interesting, especially in a draft like this, where, like I said, it's not full of the no-brainer tackles, receivers, pass rushers that are going to go top 7. Could we see a safety finally kind of crack that top 7 that we haven't seen in a decade?
I think with Kyle Hamilton's success, and, I think last year Malachi Starks had some of that. He's a really good safety, and he's got some versatility. I don't think Starks, I don't know where you had him relative to, say, a Kyle Hamilton. I don't think he was as clean of a football player as Hamilton. I think Downs is. And so I think Kyle Hamilton's success and the way teams are using their safeties, interchangeable, bringing them into the box, more and more of that probably helps, right? There's some team that's going to say, we know what we're getting with Caleb Downs, great football player that can do a whole bunch of different stuff for us. Kyle Hamilton doing it, what Derwin James has done the last 7 or 8 years. I feel like that might help Downs. Maybe that gets him in the top 10 in a draft, like you said, might be a little bit weaker at the top than usual.
And now will test better than Malachi Starks did. I think the thing that hurts Downs a little bit is we don't have snaps of him playing single high. We don't have snaps of him where he's in the deep half of the field, where you see the range and making plays at the sideline. When it just, the way Ohio State has used him the last 2 years, it has been more as a post box, kind of as a nickel almost, where, they're going to use him closer to the line of scrimmage because he's so good in the run game and he's so smart reading and reacting and then making plays that's where his value is. And so, like, when you hear him compared to like Ed Reed, like, I don't know how you make that comparison when he doesn't do Ed Reed like things. Not that he can't do it. It's just that's not how he's used at Ohio State. And so that, I think, hurts him a little bit because, again, it's not that it's easy to find those guys, but maybe it's a little bit easier than finding a true ball hawking center field type of safety. So, it's the Caleb Downs discussion is definitely layered, and I think coaches will love him. But at the same time, GMs might be a little apprehensive about how early do we feel comfortable drafting a player like this.
Miami edge rusher Ruben Bane is at 6 for you in the top 50. There was a point earlier in the season, looked like the best player in the nation. I thought he should have been the Heisman leader after about 4 weeks. For whatever that's worth, the September Heisman, for me, was going to Ruben Bane Jr. What have you seen from him, and are there any concerns about him being a tweener from a size perspective? Like, what's his actual best role at the next level?
Yeah, I think there will be some difficult conversations with Bane because he's short-armed and he doesn't have the body type's just a little. It's like, it's a tweener. Some teams will look at him and say, well, for our parameters, he's more of a 3 technique with the way that we like our guys to look and the size. And for other teams, other schemes that aren't as strict with those parameters, then maybe they'll be a little more forgiving for his body type. So that certainly plays into this. But you watch the film and you see a guy with the get off, the power. He's really, it's not just a pass rusher. He's probably even better as a run defender. So that plays a part. Now, I do think that something that hurts him a little bit is the fact that in Miami's 2 losses, he was very quiet in both those games, where we didn't see the impact that he made, like against Notre Dame or some of these other games where he just took it over and you had to give the blocker help or he was going to just wreck your day. So that plays into this a little bit, but there's no doubt he's helped himself. He came into the year because he didn't have a great sophomore year last year, and so it was a little bit of not sure what to think about Ruben Bane. But there's no doubt he's helped himself, put himself in that top 10 conversation.
Was hurt a little bit last year, probably playing through injury for a bit. You could definitely see the difference last year to this year. He was unbelievable early in the year. And I think you're right. He did lose the Heisman at one point, right? Because he did disappear. I hate the disappears in a few games comment. We said that on our show a couple days ago. But yeah, it's tough to make a massive impact every single game. But still at 6 on your board there. As for all of our fans here, a lot of our fans just getting into the draft, obviously go follow Dane's work and keep up with everything that he's doing over at The Athletic. names to know here down the stretch, or are there some names that made your top 50 that surprised you beyond, say, an Arvel Reese jumping up all the way to 1?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I mean, it's been it's been fun to watch that Ohio State defense, like I said, and Caden McDonald, the defensive tackle, has been one of those risers for me. If Kenneth Grant can go 13th overall, then I think Caden McDonald belongs in the top 25. I mean, he's a impact run defending defensive tackle, and I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does. So he's a lot of fun.
A lot of 320 to 330 pounders, it seems, in this draft.
Amari Washington, Oregon, another one of those guys who you wish you saw a little bit more pass rush from him, but man, he is lights out against the run, and you see the traits. You see the ability where, okay, he's going to get better and better and better, and he already has a high floor as a run defender, and that's really encouraging. Texas A&M is undefeated right now. They look like they could win the SEC, potentially go on a run to the national championship. And Cassius Howell, the edge rusher, has been a big reason why off the edge. So it's been fun to watch him. Bowling Green transfer, who was a backup last year, now a starter as a senior, and he's making the most of it. I want to see him be a little more diversified. I mean, the burst off the edge and his ability to corner and flatten to the quarterback is outstanding. So he's very much a high side rusher. So when he doesn't win high side, it gets a little bit muddied, and that's why he's, I think 35 and not higher on this top 50, but absolutely a playmaker and someone that has helped himself when, coming into the year, he was looked at as maybe a mid to late round type of guy. So he's really helped himself. That's been fun to watch.
I thought Howell looked better than Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, like as far as just pure pass rushers for A&M last year. Every time I was watching those guys, I'm like, 18? Like, who's this guy? Then I saw him run up the seam or down the sideline with Mason Taylor and break up a pass. And actually, it was a dime from Nussmeier. I'm like, that's another one of those plays for Howell. This dude could play. Yeah, he's been fantastic this year.
Elko loves to bring Mike Elko, the head coach at A&M, loves to bring these different blitzes, these different pressures. When it might only be 4, but it's these simulated pressures where you just don't know which 4 are coming. And so, yeah, they'll drop Howell quite a bit, and he is the type of athlete, even at 6'2", and he's another guy that's undersized for a defensive end. He's 6'2", 250, under 31-inch arms, but he has the athleticism where he can drop and make plays in space, and that's really fun to watch. So. Yeah, it's I didn't expect to have 2 running backs in this top 50. It was Jeremiah Love and then a big gap to whoever he had at running back 2. But his teammate in South Bend, Jadarian Price, he has been so much fun to watch. He might actually be better than Love in some categories in terms of vision, patience, run tempo. He's not the athlete that Love is. He's not that explosive. Not as explosive, but he is so good at picking his way through the defense. He's also has speed, obviously. He's a kick returner. He's got 3 kick returns for touchdowns in his career. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out as well. And we've never seen 2 running backs from the same program go 1 and 2 in a draft. We've seen it close, Auburn with Cadillac and Ronnie Brown and Darren McFadden and Felix Jones from Arkansas. But we've never seen running backs from the same program go 1-2. That is definitely on the table this year with the Irish running backs.
Mike Renner, noted draft analyst and Notre Dame homer, did text me during one
Notre
of the
Dame
games.
A little bit,
yeah. But he doesn't allow it to get into his draft analysis too much. But he said we might have a Cadillac Williams Ronnie Brown situation with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. And it's funny because I think everybody wanted Love to just get more touches this year. Like, why is he only getting 15 carries in big games? It's like, well, Price is stealing some carries because he's legit. They got a great 1-2 punch there.
Yeah. He's also averaging over 6 yards a carry. So, yeah, it's embarrassment of riches with what they got in the ground game. And it's funny because a lot of these players we're talking about will be in the playoff or at least, right there in the mix. And that's going to be fun. Watching last year, watching Ohio State's prospects on their run to national title was a lot of fun. Going up against Texas and Arizona State, watching Cam Scatteraboo, how much he mattered to that program. All these different teams that Abdul Carter, the way he finished his year for Penn State in the playoff that matters. And whether or not it should or not, it's going to be weighted a little bit more for teams because they want to see how you perform on the big stage. And so that's going to be a lot of fun to watch these players as we get to conference championship time, rivalry time, and then into the 12-team playoff.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better, Dane. I'm with you, man. I'm excited about the expanded playoff. Just, more time seeing good on good and Scatterboo carrying Arizona State. I love it. We're going to have more players making a move here in the coming weeks. So appreciate the time, Dane. Let me know, or let everyone know, where they could find all your stuff and what else you're working on right now.
Yeah, you can find everything on The Athletic. Find me on X, Twitter, DP Brugler. We're getting to the end of the season, so it's the time of year where you're looking at the draft order, right, and kind of matching up. All right, the Jets and this player, and so my first mock comes out first week in December, so that'll be coming out, and then it'll be draft season before we know it, and we'll be talking on the sidelines in Mobile or at Frisco at the Shrine Bowl. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Before we even know it, yeah, we'll be hanging out in the offseason circuit. We'll have to have you on for the mock draft at least. We'll get you on here in a month, talk about your mock draft to keep promoting that. And few of the fan bases are already looking forward. So go check out Dane's work and keep up with everything draft related. All right, Dane, appreciate you, man. We'll do it again soon.
All right, looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a video.
You heard the man. Subscribe.